Hey everyone, my name's Adrian.
My name's Aaron.
Welcome back to Teach One, the health and wellness podcast that aims to empower you by improving your awareness of your mental, social, and physical being through shared experience. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with us. Thank you for investing in yourself. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen and join our community on Facebook and Instagram at TWOTEACHONE. That's at 2teachone. And on our website at www.2teachone.com. That's www.2teachone.com. Today's guest has a master's in social work and is a community outreach specialist who has worked in the substance abuse disorder field. She enjoys baking and traveling. Last but not least, she's a great friend of both Aaron and I. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the podcast, Megan.
Thank you.
What up, Megan?
Not much.
Yo, so happy. Like I said earlier, I'm just going back and forth between these like moments of excitement and then deep, just sinking sadness.
Yeah.
When I remember that, you're moving away. But it's not like we're not mourning,
No, you'll be back. You'll be back.
Oh, I'm definitely coming back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Georgia's not my place.
Georgia.
No.
Georgia. Okay, no, should we not?
No.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
It's all right. We're going to move on.
Stay in Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado's nice. I know if I had to move somewhere, I think I would definitely move back as soon as possible.
Oh, yeah. That's the plan.
Yeah,
sure.
And you sort of, once you get here, you realize why everybody's moved here and how annoying it must be for people who've lived here all their lives.
Yeah, I even get in this state. I'm like, I wish people would leave, but then I'm like, that's a little hypocritical.
Right. I did the same thing. I was sitting in traffic one day and I'm like, why is traffic so bad? And then I thought, oh, because of people like me.
It's all these people.
I know.
Yeah.
But I was shocked. Like, all the people came after, they legalized marijuana. And I was like, how is this not already the best place to be?
Right.
People came here for vacation and they were just like, okay, cool. I'm going to leave.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like it's gaining the reputation as a place to be. But, it wasn't always that because it had this Denver, who's trying to be in Denver, it's kind of like the Midwest, like we're way too close to the Midwest. We're actually considered West.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know. It wasn't as cool
as it is now.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And
except that the mountains were always here and
That's
it was
true.
never humid. So I don't understand what the problem was.
Well, so here's the thing. The people, as much as we, dislike them in traffic, all those people have brought all this new culture and food and all of these things, right? And that is part of what has made it so cool.
That is true.
Before all of these people came and the whole medical marijuana and recreational marijuana thing started, let's say between 2005 and 2006, back then, even as recent as that, definitely wasn't that great. To be in Denver.
Guess, but
it was still cool.
Reason I
the
came
mountains
was
were
the
here.
Mountains.
The mountains were here.
Yeah.
In my view, that's always been here, so I don't know why it wasn't the most popular.
That's true. If you're here for specifically the outdoor lifestyle, then it's always been the place to be.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. But I think, like you said, as more people from more places came, more culture, metropolitan type lifestyle also is here. So now
absolutely.
you have everybody who came here for the mountains, and then people who are kind of here for the nightlife to enjoy the fact that marijuana is recreationally available. You have a lot of different reasons, and of course, property values have gone up, but they're still not at the prices that the coasts are. So you could come here if you were moderately wealthy, right, and get a super nice place next to the mountains with good nightlife, good eating, a good art scene. It's a happening place, and we're so sad that you're leaving.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
But you know what? Yeah, like I said, we're not more. You're not dying. You're just leaving the state. You're just leaving the state. So.
Right.
We're just looking forward to seeing you again for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Expect some very interesting, selfies of, from Aaron and I when we're getting ready for the life skills, class. We'll just.
It's going to be awesome.
I look
Trip
forward
down
to
memory
it.
lane. Yeah.
Also, I'm going to need a care package that has little Ritz bits covered in white chocolate.
Little Christmas gifts.
Yes, that thing. I still have I think actually we got rid of it, right? The container that was at the bottom of that drawer. The container she sent all the goodies in? It's clear with all the little like Christmas, like candy canes and all that stuff on it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember that.
Yeah, dude, I remembered everything about that care package.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I just remember.
Very thoughtful.
Yeah, all the little different kinds of cookies, and yeah, it's super awesome.
I've been doing that since high school.
Yeah, I would try to not eat them quickly, even though it'd be difficult.
So we are going to miss you.
Yes, very much.
But that's not going to happen, for a little while.
It's a couple weeks.
A couple weeks. I've been really excited to do this episode with you, right? So a little while ago, you were looking for a group to do, because you do facilitate a group on once or twice a week. About this particular group once a week, right?
This group? No, this is just once a month.
So once a month, right?
Yeah.
And so you did this group where you did the animal personality test, and it was a major hit. And I'd never heard of this thing until you just brought it up to me. And once you explained, I was like, that sounds really cool. And then I went and looked for it online, and I was like, yo, this is really, really cool. So
it is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to kind of go through, and you did since then you've done a training on this subject, and you did it where?
I did it at the Center for Relationship Education in Denver.
Okay.
Cool.
Excellent.
It was all on communication, healthy relationships. So really interesting training.
Cool. And how many days was that?
It was a two-day training.
It was a 2-day training? Was it fun?
It was a lot of fun.
Informational?
I didn't really want to leave.
Yeah?
There were 16 people there, and we all got to know each other, and we did activities together and ate lunch together, and
wow, that's cool.
It was kind of bonding, and then it was like after 2 days, you're just like, bye, guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
See you probably never.
Right, yeah.
Hey, never say never.
Know, right?
Yeah, never.
You
never know.
There was a cute little service dog, and he wasn't little, he was big. Service dog named Fergus.
Aw.
Fergus.
Yeah, he was very friendly.
That's a great name for a dog.
It's a great dog name, right?
Yeah.
Well, apparently all the dogs at like the Rocky Mountain Service Animal I don't know what it was, but they name all of their dogs after Disney characters.
Oh. Okay.
So like King Furious was Merida's dad in Brave. So
sure, yeah.
I don't know that I've seen
I've only seen Brave once, but
okay.
Brave, is that a Disney movie?
Yeah, Disney Pixar.
Animated, right? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The red hair, she has curly red hair, bow and arrow.
Yeah, I think the last one I actually saw was Toy Story, so I'm a little bit behind the times.
You're a little behind, yeah.
Yeah.
So, give us a little bit of an overview of what we're gonna go over today. Like, what are you gonna present?
So I have just a little bit on decision making, but mostly about animal personalities and how that relates to communication styles. And then also love languages, which also plays into communication. So these are all assessments you can take online to find out what your animal is or your love language so that you're better informed to know how you relate to other people.
Yeah.
And then can also, determine what other people in your life might be or even just have them take the assessment so you know for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? We are going to go ahead and post this information and the links to these personality tests when we post this episode. So feel free to take a look at that on our website and also on Facebook.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating because it's sort of like those, because we discussed this while we were getting ready. Some of the silly ones that you can take online, like, based on your Disney princess preference, you are a watermelon, and it's kind of silly. And so I think people have gotten used to that, but this is actually based in some science, right?
It is. It's an evidence-based thing.
Yeah. And so it's kind of interesting because you can take one of those tests. It's kind of fun to do that, but then it be based in something real, not just some strange Facebook algorithm.
And then you learn something about yourself.
Yeah.
That actually has an impact on your life and not just if you're a watermelon or a cherry.
Right.
Exactly.
Because I know my first reaction was, I want to be this certain animal, right? Because it sounds cool, right?
Yep.
But not getting hung up in the name of what because it could be, it's just animals that sort of represent the best aspects of the personality, but how you need each of these animals to function. So you don't want a team of all one animal, right? That wouldn't work. You want a team composed of these different animals. So if you were in HR or you're looking to put together some kind of team for a project, you might use this tool to ascertain, hey, I want to have this certain mix so that we're productive. So you would kind of look for people of certain animal personality traits.
Absolutely. Yeah. I will be using this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, all right. So,
But yeah, so just starting off, when I went to the training, we did this exercise. It was called paper bag hot potato. And so it was an activity that you can do, like if you have clients or whatever, students, and you basically get 4 brown paper bags and fill them with different things. So one is raw onion, one is hot peppers, one is dog bones, and one is individually wrapped chocolates. You could substitute other things, but those were the ones they used.
Quick question. Bones for dogs.
Yeah, like treats.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, not the bones of deceased dogs.
Okay.
thank you for clearing that up.
Yes, sure. Okay.
So basically what the thing was is they played some music. We all stood in a circle and passed the bags around. If you ended up with a bag in your hand, when the music stopped, you had to turn around so no one else could see, look in the bag, and determine if you were going to eat what was inside or not. If you chose to eat it, you would take a bite or whatever, and then you would just join the circle again and stay in the game. If you looked in and you were like, I'm not eating that, that's fine, but you had to sit down, so you were out of the game.
Interesting.
And then, so no one, of course, knew what was in the bags, so you had no idea what people were choosing and what they weren't.
Oh, wow.
And so if you got the bag with the dog treats, though, it had a note in there and said, this choice has been made for you. Do not eat this. Sit out.
Interesting.
You do not get to go forward in this game. And so it basically, so once we did it, of course, we found out who won based on who ate their stuff or whatever.
Right.
And so then we kind of just discussed it afterward, and they were like, so, you know, how many of you got the dog bones and were disappointed? And some people raised their hands and they're like, well, that represents, you know, life. Sometimes you don't get a choice and sometimes it sucks.
Right.
You know, sometimes you just have to live with the fact that it was out of your hands.
Right.
But then the others, like the hot pepper and the raw onion, those are not necessarily pleasurable for a lot of people. So then it kind of went into the risk reward of, did you choose to eat it? Why? So for some people, maybe they liked hot peppers or raw onion, or they didn't bother them. And so they're like, I wanted to win.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, like they were competitive and to them it was worth it. But like me, first round, I got the hot peppers and I wasn't about to eat that. So I was out first round. And they were like, so for those of you who got hot pepper or red onion and didn't eat it, what would you have done if we told you that if you won, the prize would be a 2-week trip to Hawaii, all paid?
Yeah.
So then what? And I was like, yeah, I would have eaten those peppers. I would have eaten the whole bag of peppers. So it's that risk reward. For me, it wasn't worth it, just the idea of winning the game to eat a hot pepper. But if I was getting 2 weeks in Hawaii, of course it was worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it really just depended on the personality. Of course, if you got chocolate, pretty much everyone ate it.
Yeah.
Right.
But they basically just went into this point that, like, everyone is kind of using a decision-making model at all points in their life. And you may not be aware of what theirs is. So you kind of have to understand where they're coming from with their decision because, you know, everyone has different information than you. So if they're making a different decision than you would, they may have different information than you have. Or if you have the same information, then their view of risk and reward may be different than yours.
Right.
So you can't necessarily get angry with someone for choosing something that you know, didn't choose. I mean, if I'm going through the game and someone got the chocolate bag and didn't eat it, and I'm like, why wouldn't you eat the chocolate?
Right.
Right.
Maybe they're lactose intolerant, but that might not have been information I knew.
Right.
So,
Interesting. Yeah.
you know, that goes back into whether or not I had all of the information that they have. But really, that kind of just leads into, like, the animal personalities. Because if you can understand someone's personality and what their values are based on their personality, you may better understand their choices, even if it's not your choice.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a good point.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It was a really cool little game that we played.
It's interesting that it's almost as much for your understanding of others as it is for your understanding of yourself.
Oh, definitely. We learned a lot about ourselves
Yeah.
in those 2 days.
And then also, yeah, because if people around you take the test and you have to make some decisions, then you can sort of know how to approach them or what they might be good at or what task they might enjoy.
So there are the 4 different animal personalities. And so they all have their strengths and weaknesses, for sure. There's no good animal or bad animal. But definitely, they all have strengths to bring to the table. So if you're working with a group of people, you really do want a mix of all of these because otherwise you're going to have people probably butting heads or just not having certain aspects of whatever the project is getting taken care of because you're all focusing on your one strength that you all have. And that thing you're not so good at is just getting left alone.
Right.
So, but we all have every animal within us. So regardless of what your top animal is, it doesn't mean you don't have the others. While I'm talking about them, it'll probably be a little exaggerated, almost as if that's your only animal.
Sure.
So you get an understanding of the animal, but all of us have all the animals, and depending on the people you're around, the situation you're in, that can bring out different animals within you. So if you know a coworker and you're like, oh my God, I definitely know their animal, and then you see them not at work, they might not be that animal at all.
Right. That's interesting, yeah.
Because depending on the situation. I mean, the guy who's doing the training, he's like, I'm an otter, but when I forget my anniversary, I'm a golden retriever.
Right.
And when I'm yelling at the kids, I'm a lion. So
right. It
really depends. But yes, the way I'll talk about them is very black and white, exaggerated, hyperbole almost, just to get the point across about the animal.
Yeah.
But the main takeaway from everything is that intention has no bearing on impact. So that being said, whatever you say to someone, no matter what your intention is, if that's not the way it comes across to them, that's not what's important. The impact it has on them is what's important.
That is such a good statement. Intention has no bearing on impact.
Yes, and that's what they told us in the training, so that you were thinking about your animal and how your animal might come across to someone else's animal. And like, even though you meant something one way, didn't always play out that way in their head.
Yeah. Huh.
And so this, it's just something to think about as you get to know your animals.
Sure, yeah, and how you're interacting with people and how your animal might interact with their animal, and it's fascinating. And that does happen so often where when miscommunication occurs, it seems like, well, I meant it this way.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But it came across this way. And that
definitely.
Understanding that gap could be huge in interpersonal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very big.
So tell us about the animals.
So there are 4 different animals. There are lions, otters, golden retrievers, and beavers. A lot of people get turned off when they're like, a beaver? I don't want to be a beaver. But again, all of the animals have strengths and weaknesses. There's no good or bad animal.
Right.
But basically, personality is set by the time you're 7 years old.
Okay.
It can flux a little bit, but for the most part, that is set. It's almost as set as your biology. So even though you'll grow and you're mature and you'll learn, that is your personality pretty much for your whole life. And so whatever your animal is, that's probably the animal you've been your whole life up till now, and the animal you will probably always be.
Right.
So when people take the assessment, it should be kind of when you're at rest, not necessarily thinking about when you're at work or around certain people, but just kind of you.
Yeah, how you are naturally. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But just to go through the animals, lions, those are natural born leaders. Their motto is, let's do it now. They value efficiency very highly.
Yeah.
Is it funny, Adrian?
Sorry. Well, it's funny because that's literally...
Let's do it now. That is... I'm pretty sure I said that once today, and even if it's just to myself.
If I were designing a T-shirt for Adrian,
let's do it now.
That might be the phrase I would just naturally come up with.
Well, that was you, Adrian, right? You were a lion?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's what it came out as, yeah.
So lions love to win. They are competitive. The way he explained it in the training is like, lions, they'll be the ones on the interstate who get the little lights, before they merge on, and they're racing the car next to them to be the first one to merge on.
Right.
That's a lion.
Yeah. They're eating the onion and the pepper. They're like, I don't care. I don't care what I win.
I'm going to win. They do like to accomplish things with immediate results. That instant gratification is big for a lion. They're decisive to a fault. Lions will make a decision without really consulting anyone else on a team. And it's not I just know how to make the best decision, so I'm just going to do it. It's more because they value efficiency to the lion. They're like, oh, well, I've got this team and we have to make the decision. I'll just make it. It's off their plates. They don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, they're trying to help.
Yeah. Doesn't come across that way for a lot of people. They're like, what the hell? We were all supposed to be on that decision.
Right.
Why would you make it? And the lion's like, I don't understand. I was trying to help. You don't have to worry about it now. Right. This is where communication can break down between animals. Because lions, they are decisive and they like to get things done. They don't really like to be questioned. But they're not afraid of pressure or confrontation. They'll step up.
Yeah.
If the quickest way to get through this problem is to face it head on,
Let's do it.
let's go.
Yeah.
So, they're really good bosses for the most part because they just naturally take charge. So it's easy for them to be the boss.
Yeah.
They like allegiance. They like change. But basically, if you're talking to a lion, they're basically just like, don't tell me a story, just answer the question.
Right.
Lions do not want a long, rambling story about whatever. Just get to the point.
Yeah.
That's a lion. They come across as really hard to talk to. And if you know a lion, like if they're in the office or something, it was explained as them having like resting lion face. So if you see a lion coming down the hallway, they might like brow furrowed, kind of looking at the floor, like pacing. And what's going on is like they look really angry, but what's happening is they're basically trying to just. What's funny?
Because what's hilarious is we're describing Adrian.
I guess.
This is so shocking. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, keep going. I'm so sorry.
So yeah, they're like pacing and you're like, oh my God, they look like they're pissed. I'm going to get out of their way. Really what's happening is they're just like going through their list. Okay, I'm going to go to lunch now and then I've got like 4 emails to return and then I need to go to that meeting and then I need to finish that part of the project and submit it to so-and-so. And that's just what's happening in their mind. They don't mean to look mean. If you were to stop them and say, hey, you just got back from vacation. How was it? They'd probably be happy to talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
They just don't look like it.
Right.
Lions are not in most things for themselves. They want the best for the group, just like making the decision. They're trying to help the group out. It just doesn't always come across that way.
Yeah.
So it's something for lions to consider is like maybe slowing down and trying to include other people. In the training, one of the girls was like, yeah, I've done this before and I know I'm a lion. She's like, now I have a dedicated friend that I can send my emails to before I send them out to a group to make sure they don't sound too demanding and harsh.
Right.
Because as a lion, of course, she just values efficiency. So her least amount of words possible.
Right. Which could come across as terse and tense. Yeah, but not intentionally so.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's kind of fascinating because you think of the lion, right? And you imagine the lion out there on the Serengeti and chasing, looking all regal and chasing its prey. But then you realize lions live in packs, So even the lion, there's an order there. And it's
they take care of their pride.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. That's their main focus.
Yeah. And so.
They're not tigers.
No. Lions, they like to make those decisions. They like to be efficient. What can happen, though, is like lions will make a decision quickly with very little information. They just make it because in their mind, decision's made, done. I can change my mind later. It's not always the most efficient way to do it if you have to change your mind every day or every week as you get new information. So it can break down. They think they're being very efficient because they're constantly making decisions, but they may not be taking in all of the information and making the best decision for the long run.
Interesting.
But they are great bosses, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Good leaders.
Yeah, so. You need them.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Next one's otters. So.
Otters.
Yes. Aaron is an otter.
So can I just say that immediately, like, yes, the idea, you talked about how, people will see the animals that, they have to choose from and be like, yeah, I want to be a lion because they're regal and all those things that Aaron said, right? Funny enough, that wasn't my first reaction. I was like, dude, otters are so cute.
They are.
Like, I think I'd like to be an otter. Let me be an otter for that reason, But yeah, I just remember thinking that and it was a moment. I just kept to myself.
That is interesting.
Until now.
Yeah, maybe we intrinsically, when somebody mentions them and describes these things, we're kind of going to know who we are. And maybe it's almost like when you see somebody, so I have really short hair. So when I see somebody with like really long, luscious, thick hair, I'm like, oh, I'd like to have long hair. It's that thing about sort of wanting to be or experience what we're not.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most people don't ever have problems with the animals until you get to beaver and they're like, who wants to be a beaver?
But see, that's what's interesting. Beavers are actually awesome.
Yeah, I think so too.
You ever watched like National Geographic, like how efficient and how building dams and cutting trees down?
Building dams? Have you seen how crazy and intricate that the construction of that thing is?
It's fascinating.
And it's strong and they can be giant, huge.
And they're huge and they can cut trees down.
Yeah.
I can't like just walk out with like no tools and cut a tree down.
You know how small those things are? They'll gnaw a tree down.
Yeah.
Give me an axe or a chainsaw. I'm not trying to cut a tree down,
Yeah.
Anyway, and it's easy.
Yeah, and they're just chewing on it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So otters, these people are, their motto is, trust me, it will work out. Otters don't always have a plan. They just look on the bright side. It'll work out. They are great for morale and engagement in the workplace. They are very fun-loving. They like to look for silver linings.
Yeah.
And they'll find them. They don't like confrontation.
Not especially.
They tend to focus on the future. That's the kind of, it'll work out, no worries. They don't like the fine print. Otters are not super detail-oriented. They like to flit from one thing to another, superficially, kind of. These are the people who will have 25 best friends, but they don't know anyone's last name. They love people.
Yeah.
They like to make it fun. So they're great networkers, which is really good. They will succumb to peer pressure pretty easily. It's very easy to get an otter to say yes because all you have to be is, well, I thought you were the fun one. And the otter's going to be like, well, I am.
I'm the fun one. What are you talking about?
Of course.
It's true.
So otters do kind of succumb to that peer pressure pretty often. They like to be involved in decisions, but probably aren't going to, be the deciding factor. They just want to be heard.
Yeah.
But yeah, very encouraging of people. Their key phrase is kind of lighten up. So otters, of course, have a really important role in work teams and things like that. Of course, like I said, morale and engagement. They're the people who get the rest of the team excited about whatever you're doing. It might be the most boring project in the world, but that otter is going to make sure that the team is having fun.
Oh, yeah.
And that can be huge when you're working on a really boring project that you really don't want to be doing. The otter's going to get everyone excited about it. Which is huge. And if you've got any networking that needs to be done, call the otter.
Yeah.
They'll get it done.
I thought it was interesting when you were like, yeah, I don't know how we're going to get it done, but it's going to work out. Let's just go. let's just do it. It's going to be great.
That's probably one of the things we have to credit to this podcast existing right now. Because had it been someone else besides my otter good friend, Aaron here, that I was partnering up with in the beginning, this may not have happened because they may have, come in with something, thought into it too much, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But this dude was just like, I was like, yeah, let's just start doing it. He's like, yes.
All in.
And we did.
Yeah, that's where the lion and the otter really worked out well because Adrian sort of set it up hey, let's make a decision, let's do it. And I'm like, yep. He's like, I don't know, is it going to be okay? It's going to be fantastic. We're going to be on Jimmy Kimmel next week.
I was like, you know what? I doubt it, but I like that energy. Let's do this.
And that is what an otter does. They are the people that you come home on Friday night and you're exhausted and you get in your pajamas and curl up on the couch and you're just in for the night. And your otter friend calls and is like, hey, let's go out. Let's go have some fun. And you're like, no, I'm in. And your otter's like, okay, I'll make a deal. Go out with me for an hour, and if you're not having fun, I'll bring you right back home.
Yep.
So you go, and then you're out till 3 a.m. because you were having the best night of your life. That's the otter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that's where their strengths lie.
Okay.
Their issues, of course, again, the peer pressure. But also, otters love to find the silver lining in issues, which is really good. But they can take it too far sometimes. So if you are at work one day and you're kind of sad and your otter friend asks, hey, what's going on? And you say, well, I just found out my kid has cancer. And, you're like, they're getting treated at such and such hospital. The otter's going to feel so upset by this. They're going to try to turn it around any way they can. But that's not an easy situation to turn around, of course.
Sure.
So, for them, the only thing they might come up with is well, I've heard they have really good food at the hospital. Well, that doesn't come across well.
Sure, yeah.
You tried. The otter's, again, intention doesn't really have a bearing on impact.
On impact, right.
Yeah.
So even though the otter's intention was to turn that situation around for you, it kind of comes off as just not.
Yeah.
It just sounds kind of insensitive.
Yes.
So otters have to learn when it's appropriate to, kind of joke around or find silver linings, and when they just have to learn to sit in that suck with you.
Yep.
And just sit in those feelings, because you can't always make a joke out of everything. Right. Even though the intention, of course, is good. It's never just to make a joke at your expense. Doesn't always come across well.
Yeah.
Right.
That is interesting, because that is a lesson that I've had to learn. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. It's a lesson a lot of otters learn probably pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You say it once and someone bites your head off. And
yeah. When to just give somebody a hug and, just sit with them, as opposed to, because I can't make every situation better.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but I mean, again, otters are really great people for making things fun, lighthearted, getting people involved. So,
and very
otters,
cute. Yeah, very cute.
They are very cute.
The same.
But yeah, that's mostly everything about an otter.
Okay. Otters. Next.
Golden retrievers.
Golden retrievers. I wouldn't mind being a golden retriever either. I've been noticing a lot of them in Denver recently, and I'm just like, what a regal in their faces. It always I'm just like, hi.
Isn't that your secondary? No, your secondary is
No. My secondary was otter.
That's right.
Lion, and
Lion
I was
otter.
surprised about that one, but not mad at all.
My secondary was
secondary,
golden retriever.
yeah.
True. All
I'm
right.
a golden retriever.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, golden retriever
cool.
beaver.
Sweet.
Oh, nice.
All right, let's get into it.
Yeah, so golden retrievers, pretty much like everyone kind of thinks about a golden retriever. If you think about the personality traits of the animal, loyal, just kind of, that's the way they are. They're very loyal. They're very loving. Their motto is, let's keep things the way they are. They like routine. They don't like change. They're fiercely loyal, though. They have a deep need to please others, and hearts very full of compassion.
Yeah.
So, like, people like therapists, people who work in nonprofits a lot of times often tend to be golden retrievers just because of their nature. They can take on a lot of emotional pain from other people. That's just what they can do. They don't like sudden changes, but they are highly adaptable. So they'd like to know about a change, but they don't want to ruffle feathers anywhere. They hate confrontation. So golden retrievers, if they really want Italian food for lunch and the rest of the office wants Chinese, they're just the ones who are like, okay, that's fine. Just very adaptable because they don't want to cause any problems.
Sure.
They will hold stubbornly to what they feel is right, maybe to a fault. Can be a little judgy sometimes. They only, unlike otters, they're very invested in relationships, but the otter has lots of friends that they know kind of well. Golden retrievers only have, a few friends, but they know literally everything. Where they were born, what their favorite color is, who their first pet was, what their parents' names are. They know it all.
Interesting. Okay.
They, like I said, they can absorb an incredible amount of emotional pain and still remain committed. So they can end up staying too long in relationships that are draining for them.
Yeah.
If they're not standing up for their own boundaries. They're very indecisive and procrastinators. Really good listeners and encouragers, for sure. They can empathize really well, the peacekeepers. But for golden retrievers, if someone says something to them that's just like a little pebble to a lion, just kind of bounces off, that's like a 50-pound weight to a golden retriever. A little side remark that you would think maybe nothing of, to a golden retriever, that hurts. Because they have such a strong desire to please.
Yeah.
And so they can also be very passive-aggressive. They're not going to ruffle feathers, but, they're the ones who will be like, oh, that's the way you want to do this? Okay. That's fine, whatever. See how it goes. They're not going to tell you no.
Right.
But they can get highly passive-aggressive. They don't like to make decisions. If they do, they're going to want input from everyone before they make that decision. So this is where lions and golden retrievers can argue, especially like in work teams. The lion wants to make the decision and move on, even if it means they need to make a decision later. Golden retrievers, if they have the same decision in front of them, will literally sit there and just think of everything. How is this going to impact the team and every individual on it and the company and the people outside of the company and the environment? They have thought well beyond anything that everyone else has thought of.
Interesting.
So when they make a decision, it might take them 3 days, but they usually won't stray from that decision. It's the right decision because they've already thought through everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So the lions are like, no, you're being so inefficient. Just make a decision, move on.
Right.
But the thing lions have to remember is if the lion has to keep coming back to that decision week after week, even if they end up in the same place that the golden retriever did, they kept having to put time into it rather than sticking with it and making probably a better, more informed decision from the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's different ways to go about it. Not that lions are wrong, just that they tend to get frustrated with like golden retrievers because they're so slow. But if you look at it in the long run, they probably really aren't any slower or faster.
Right. It's just a different decision-making process.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But golden retrievers can be very codependent and enabling. So they really need to learn boundaries because they can be a martyr in a relationship. So they really have to be firm with their boundaries and learn to say no, when to walk away. But very fiercely loyal, really good people to have on your side.
Oh, yeah.
They will put aside all work to talk to you if you need it.
That's awesome.
Kind of frustrates, the lions. You're not working. Very, very, very loyal people.
Man, I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
I know, isn't it crazy? You
Yes.
start to think of people in your life. You're like, I know what they are.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
Right.
Yeah. When I did this with the clients, they were like, oh my God, that's what my son is. That's why we don't get along. Because he's a beaver and I'm a lion and we just hate each other. But the last one is a beaver. This is the least common of all the personality types to be like a top. A lot of people are a secondary beaver,
Right.
but not a first. It's a pretty low.
Interesting.
Yeah. But beavers are really wonderful to have around too. Beavers, their motto is, let's do it right. So that's kind of what they value is accuracy. They're very directive like lions. So unlike otters and golden retrievers who are more focused on people and relationships, beavers and lions are more focused on task. They value task over people. Not that they don't like people or anything like that. It's just their priorities, especially at work, tend to just be the task over relationships.
Okay.
They keep a close watch over their emotions, and they definitely read instructions. These are the people that in your office, if the microwave breaks, everyone's like, oh no, what are we going to do? That was our microwave. How do we heat lunch? And the beaver's like, hold on, guys. I've got a whole drawer over here. It's got all of the user manuals from every appliance in the office. They're alphabetized, and I've already highlighted the instructions for if it breaks down.
Dude,
That's the beaver.
Yeah.
I actually appreciate that a lot. So prior to you coming in, the guy that was in there before you,
Yeah.
that he was that kind of guy, and you could see like the bottom drawer, the bottom left drawer, how everything is just like arranged.
Yeah.
Dude, that wasn't me, man.
That was all him?
That was him.
Wow.
Man, and putting together lists and all these.
Yeah, I've seen those on the computer.
Yeah. And folders with
Just task lists and this and that.
details, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
It makes life so much easier.
Yes.
It's hard for the other animals. They're not that detail oriented. But
Right.
if they've got a beaver in their life, man, that beaver will organize everything.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we need to hire one.
Oh, dude. We're gonna work on this, man. We're just gonna start like interviewing people.
Please take this personality
You know
quiz.
what? This interview just consists of this. Actually, we just email them the personality test, right?
Or you could have beaver contracting. They'll just come in and organize your life. I wonder if that lady, the famous woman from Japan, I don't remember her name.
Marie Kondo?
Yes. I wonder what her personality type is if she's a beaver.
Could be. It's very possible.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah. They are very organized, detail-oriented. They like to use critical thinking skills to solve problems.
Yeah.
Anger is often turned inward for them. So they don't often show a lot of emotion. If it builds up too much, though, they will kind of outburst.
Yeah.
Beavers are great if you have any, things that need, editing or really precise, engineers, accountants. These are really good jobs for beavers.
Yeah.
Editors, things like that.
Yeah.
Because they're just so good at the details. And also, beavers, they'll never make a mistake twice. They are perfectionists to a T. So if a beaver made a mistake in a project once, you better believe they will have learned from that mistake and they're dwelling on that mistake every day. And so when it comes time for something else like that, they're not going to make that mistake again. So that's definitely one of beavers' greatest strengths. But it can hold them back because they can't always let go. They need to be able to move on from a mistake. But because they're perfectionist, they'll hold on to that. Kind of gets them in relationships too. These are the people that are like, hey, remember that time 5 years ago when you did this? Yeah, maybe not great in your personal relationships.
Right.
You gotta learn to let that stuff go.
Right. Yeah.
But they don't. They remember. They're like, oh yeah, it was May 24th, 5 years ago, and you told me I was a slop.
Right. You're like, I don't even remember that.
I know, right? That is frightening.
Yes.
I'm not trying to hear any of that, man.
No.
Wait, you know what time it was? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They probably have it like on a note, like alphabetized.
Yeah, especially
Oh, no.
All the things you've done wrong.
Oh, no.
especially as an otter who talks a lot. I'm like, I probably, maybe I said that.
Probably said it 5 times.
Right.
Otters do have really deep feelings for those they love, but they don't always show them. They like processes.
Beavers?
Beaver. Oh, did I say otter?
Yeah.
I always do that. It's beaver. Yeah. They love the people in their lives, but they have more processes for it. So like beavers sometimes don't always say the words, I love you. But if like their spouse is like, why don't you ever say I love you? The beaver's like, I don't understand. Like, how do you not know? We got married and we had kids. I bought you a house. I cooked dinner. Like, for them, it's a process.
Right.
And for them, that means I love you. Like, saying the words don't really mean anything. Like, I did all this for you,
Right.
so I love you.
Yeah, much more important to them. Than
Right. I can show you better than I can tell you. you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, like the
but-
words just
right.
aren't as important to them.
Yeah.
So they just assume if I do this, this, and this, that means I love you. And it does. They do love them.
Mm-hmm.
But for someone who's not a beaver, they're like, why don't you ever say it?
Right.
And it gets frustrating.
Right.
But they do have high standards, so if you're working with a beaver, you might get nitpicked a lot. They'll slow down under pressure because they don't want to make a mistake. So if, their boss comes to them and says, this project needs to be done by 2 p.m. today, they're like, well, if it's all right at 2 p.m., you'll have it. If not, you'll get it at 3.
Right.
They don't really care.
Right. I'm going to do it correctly.
Yes. They do need a lot of praise for their accomplishments. And they'll follow directions, even if they know a better way. Wow. So a lot like golden retrievers, I didn't mention this, but golden retrievers won't give advice unless asked, or their opinion unless asked directly. Because, even if their boss comes in and says, okay, we're going to, start painting the office bright yellow. What do we all think of that? And the golden retriever's just like, no, that's terrible, actually. They're not going to say it unless the boss says, what do you think of it? Because they don't want to step on toes. So unless they're specifically invited into the conversation, they're not going to join it. They'll just be like, okay, that's where they're passive aggressive. Sure, yellow walls, yeah, great. We'll all just be headache central in here. Kind of like beavers do. You can give them a list of instructions and they might know a better way to do it, but unless you specifically ask, they'll just say, okay, I'll do it this way.
Huh.
They will not venture that information. They were given instructions. That's
And
how
they're
they
gonna
do
follow
them.
it. That's fascinating.
Okay.
Yeah, so they are very by the book. But again, not very emotive. So things they have to consider when they're, in relationships or even in the office sometimes. But as you can see, all of the animals have their strengths and their weaknesses. But if you don't understand someone else's animal, you
Right.
might struggle with, like, why are they making that decision? Why are they working that way? Why are they doing this? And that gets hard if people don't understand that.
Yeah, supremely useful for understanding group dynamics.
Yes.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. And like I said, personality is set by age 7. And you can't change that. Like, that's biology. You would never look at someone and say, be taller. They can't. They can't. That's impossible for them.
Right.
But if you look at a beaver and just be like, be more lion, they can't. It is not possible for them. So if you're just trying to, like, look at someone and be like, think more like me, they can't.
Right.
You have to be able to adjust to them as well. Hopefully they're adjusting to you, because no animal just gets to be like, oh, well, that's who I am. Deal with it.
Right.
Everyone should know their weaknesses and try to work on them, but also knowing someone else's strengths and playing to them if they're not your animal. But it's why the self-help industry is done so well.
Yeah.
They have all these books of, like, if you read this book and do these things, you can become an otter instead of a beaver. And then it doesn't work, and you're like, oh my God, I failed. And you go and buy another book.
Right.
Interesting, yeah.
But you can't change it. If you're a beaver, you're a beaver.
Right.
And that's just what you are. You can learn to be more lion-like, of course.
Yeah.
You can learn to, what your weaknesses are and how to avoid them.
Right.
But you are always a beaver if that's what you are. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and like situational specific, right? So you can learn, like I mentioned earlier, as an otter, even though I didn't know the term otter, I sort of knew how I reacted to situations, and then learning how that affected other people, and then sort of changing how, even though it's my natural instinct, to not always express it so that those around me can be comfortable in certain situations.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting stuff. Very educational. And like you said, to understand group dynamics. And I think it's important for, if you're going to do kind of like, it'd be cool if we did some of these things once in a while, like as a staff, you know what I'm saying? Like took a few minutes,
Oh yeah. We should totally do that at the next staff meeting.
Yeah.
Just bring this in. I'm taking over today, guys.
It'd be cool. If you can table it, we missed one, right? So maybe this next time they may have a lot of good stuff that they want to go through, but it wouldn't be a bad idea in the not too distant future to be like, hey, talk to your office mate. Just be like, hey,
personality test.
We're doing this thing next before everyone goes there.
Disperses.
Exactly.
That would be really cool.
This is how we're starting staff meeting. Figure out your animal.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
But yeah, so now that everyone knows the animals, it's important to understand how that changes conflict in a relationship or work or wherever.
Yeah.
So conflict specifically.
Well, not necessarily, but I mean, it's an easy way to see where conflict often comes from.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
When a beaver is trying to get their work done.
Right.
And a lion is like, why aren't you getting there faster?
Okay.
The lion's valuing the efficiency, the beaver's valuing the accuracy.
Got you.
Yeah.
So when you have someone you're in conflict with, it's important to note that you're not in conflict with the person. You have a conflict with their values, their animal's values.
Right, their decision-making process, yeah.
Yeah, so you can value the person. A lion can truly value their beaver coworker and still be annoyed by the fact
Sure.
the beaver isn't as fast as the lion.
Yeah,
Right.
that's kind of what I was thinking about, because certain people that you work with, you're like, why, if that person does that thing one more time,
Right.
And then having that window to think about it, be like, okay, so the reason I feel that way is because I'm this and they're that.
Right.
So they're actually doing the best they can, when I should just maybe let that go. Or find a way to be like, hey, so we need to get this done by this time. So if I was a boss, right, if I were a boss who was a lion, and I was talking to my accountant who was a beaver, and I'm like, we have to turn this in to the state by 2 p.m.
Right.
And the beaver was like, well, it may not be done till 2:30 because it has to be done, perfect. Finding the way to reach that common ground, right?
Absolutely.
And coming at it from a way that's not just, you're going to do it.
Right.
And so, these animal personalities are just really an interesting way to understand other people and yourself in that conflict, right?
Definitely. And like I said, you can't change it. You can't just look at the beaver and be like, be more lion.
Yeah.
They cannot.
Right.
And that's crucial to understand, is because we get so frustrated. Like, if they would just think like me, if they would just work like me, there'd be no issue.
Right.
But people can't do that. So having that understanding of they're working in the best way they know how, and I need to find a way to change my thinking maybe a little bit to them, while also hopefully they're doing the same for you, so that y'all can find that common ground. But definitely recognizing what someone else's animal is and finding the value in them. So if you are the leader of a team or something, look at people's personalities. You don't want to put the otters doing the editing. They don't want to do that detailed work that isolates them.
Right.
Try to find something that plays to their strengths.
Yeah.
So bosses ultimately probably want to be able to appeal to everyone on their team. So if they're talking about a project, answer their questions. So lions are just what needs to get done.
Right.
Otters are for who. And then the golden retriever is why.
Right.
And then the beaver is how.
Does that say why by lion?
No.
No.
Why by the golden retriever?
Yeah,
by the golden
why is by the
retriever.
golden retriever? For those of you in our studio audience, so you can't see what we're looking at, but there's this really interesting four-square deal.
infographic,
Yeah. It has these really cute pictures of the animals, and then exactly what Megan just said. So when you're looking at a task, you're like how for the beaver, right? What for the lion, Y for the golden retriever, and then who for the otter. And then on the side, it's kind of interesting because you have the beaver and the golden retriever on one side who are cautious and quiet, and then the otter and the lion are quick and verbal, right? Mm-hmm. It's it's fascinating. And I wonder, of course, this is sort of outside the scope, but did they touch on any of this in your training, whether they think that it's sort of an inborn or whether it's environmentally shaped?
I mean, people always question the nature versus nurture.
Sure.
But even when babies come out, they have a personality.
Yeah.
So more or less, I mean, your personality, like I said, it's set by 7. So of course you have a personality from when you're born, but it is probably shaped by some of your nurture.
Yeah.
But up until that point, when you get to 5 to 7, somewhere in there, your personality is your personality.
Yeah.
Even they've done studies, I think, and even people who've gone through massive trauma, it may change how they react to things, but if they work through that trauma and get back to kind of a normal set point,
right,
their personality is still that animal, even though for maybe a year or 2 or 10, however long they were dealing with that trauma, their personality may have been different.
Yeah.
If they can truly work through it, they're pretty much back to
who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how you talked about how you can't change who you are, and nor should you want to. So again, it's back to that. When I initially heard these names of the animals, you think lion. I'm king of the jungle, or I'm a lion. But not a lion, right? And when you define it this way, and nor do I want to try to be a lion, because that's not who I am. I think each of us are going to be much more happy when we are what we intrinsically are without trying to be something that we aren't.
Oh, it's so stressful to try.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
If a beaver is trying so hard to be a lion, they're going to be stressed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, it's funny because I think about it because Adrian and I often talk about this, what leadership is. And sure, as an otter or a golden retriever or a beaver, you can be in a position of leadership.
Definitely.
But you may put your lion, so you may be the supervisor, but you have a lion on your team. You may put them in a position where they're making more decisions and things. And I talk about it when I play soccer. I'm perfectly happy and I like playing on the wing, right? I don't necessarily want to be the forward who scores the goals. I'm perfectly content to know that I got the pass to the forward that allowed them to score the goal. They can't score without the wing. And, just playing those different roles actually makes us, again, happier and more content, right? Whereas Adrian sort of has a natural affinity and need to be making decisions and to creating things and be enterprising, right? Mm-hmm. It's so fascinating. But again, like he said, without the sort of otter addition, maybe that doesn't happen, even though you have the lion here. And then if you don't have a beaver around to sort of do the details, and if you don't have a golden retriever to,
care for everyone.
Yeah, it's so fascinating how these all fit together.
Yeah, definitely. So it's definitely good to know, and just if there is conflict, knowing that you're not in conflict with the person, but with their animal.
Yes.
Your animal's in conflict with their animal.
Right.
So it kind of depersonalizes it in a way so that you're I don't hate Jim. I hate that Jim is a beaver and I'm an otter,
Right.
And how are we going to work through that? But I value Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's definitely some things I may spend some time looking deeper into this. And, very true to what we do here to Teach One. This is just going to, provide a foundation, for understanding the people around you. If you want to, you can dive way deeper. I'm sure there's probably
a whole book on this.
Right. Exactly. So for me, I can definitely identify one situation where I could definitely benefit from, looking deeper into it, because there's some things and people that I don't understand. And that's the thing about management. When I got into it, I realized quickly that I wasn't going to get into, when I first started working with Aaron, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, you know what? For me, it doesn't seem important for him to know how to do administrative stuff, right? I was like, you know what? I want to see, figure out who this guy is, what his strengths are, right? And then, the path of least resistance, put him in a position where he can actually, be that person and then improve, and just continue to build on that, right?
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of what we did. I didn't know at all that I was taking this kind of approach, right? I don't think I did. I was just like path of least resistance.
No, but it is interesting how
Lion, you wanted it efficient.
Yes. You just sort of recognize and like, okay, so go do that. Yeah. And then let's do the edges where some things we have to meet some sort of standards.
Right, exactly. Right.
But focus on, and you did, right? I think it's kind of interesting that I do the house meetings, right?
Absolutely.
I'm sort of like the spokesman, you know.
You are 100%.
You know, and then you're kind of, you know, doing things. And then I don't know, we have a coworker named Ian, and I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, but I suspect that he's a beaver. You know, I know that they say that's the least, you know, popular or the least amount of people are beavers, but I would think that if he took this, because we talk about it.
Oh, he's going to take it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and he likes the administrative stuff and dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
And he can do it. He does it so fast, too.
Oh, yeah. And he loves it. He enjoys it. And it's so interesting how the three of us are all different animal types, and we right now we function really well as a team because of that.
Team-wise, I've never been in a better place. I can't tell you how pleased I've been. And, you know, we'll see how it continues. Just to touch on something else that you said. So there's something that has happened in my life that, you know, it was a moment where I was just like, I wonder if traits can actually transfer, like, you know, genetics like plays a role in it.
Yeah.
Because when I grew up, you know, my dad wasn't always like, you know, in my life, right? But then, you know, later on in life, I mean, we started spending more time, but at this point, like, we're like, you know, best buds, right? But I still have moments when, I kid you not, I'm hanging around my dad and he does something and I'm like, I've been doing that forever, right? Like even before we spent a lot of time together. So it's not like I had time to observe him and like take on those like character traits. You know what I'm saying? Like how are we doing? It was so scary. I was watching a video of myself the other day. I was like, dude, how am I him?
Yeah. There's a word for that. Is it, I forget, epigenetics? I don't know if that's the correct term.
So it does happen?
No, yeah. There is this growing field of science that thinks that there are cellular memories, right? That the memories and mannerisms of your father are passed down genetically to you.
Okay.
That you don't necessarily always just need to see them, that they exist within you in some cellular fashion. Now, again, you know, that's not entirely scientifically accepted, but there's a growing body of research that suggests that. It's
very fascinating. It was just shocking for me to be like, dude, what is going on right now? Because I just don't know much about that kind of thing. So that's cool. So there is an aspect. So in some cases, it is nature.
I don't think anyone's ever going to prove conclusively it's 100% nature or nurture.
Right.
I mean, they've done twin studies and things that like prove parts of nature, but like if you look at anyone, nurture, usually nature plays the predisposition part.
Right.
So for maybe a mental illness, someone might be predisposed to it.
Sure.
But depending on, you know, maybe a trauma in their childhood, that actually sets it off.
Right, yeah.
So I don't think there's ever going to be a conclusive, it's all nature or all nurture. I don't think that's ever going to be a thing. I think it's both.
True.
Yeah, agreed.
Which is very natural.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a huge debate, of course.
Sure,
Right.
Yeah, and it's been going on for hundreds of years, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like a couple scenarios about the animals.
Oh, yeah, that sounds fascinating. Let's do
this.
So like the first scenario is you receive a text from a friend asking a question. So the lion just responds with the fewest letters possible. It's kind of possible that they might respond with so few letters that they read their text later and they're like, I don't even know what I meant by that. It was just the most efficient way to say my point and be done. If you're an otter, you probably texted back using as many words and as emoticons as possible. Just exclamation marks and smiley faces and just everything. That's how that text went. If you're a golden retriever, you just picked up the phone and called them. Made sure to ask how their family was.
Okay. All right.
You wanted that connection. And if you're a beaver, you'll notice the message. You'll just type a short message back, but you'll be sure that all of the punctuation is correct.
Right.
You didn't skip any periods. You capitalized the beginning of the sentence.
Right.
To a T, it's perfect. So.
Yeah, probably not using the shorthand that so many people use on text messaging.
No, Beavers spell it all out. It's their perfection.
Interesting.
So the next scenario is you're approaching a door and there's a person about 20 feet behind you walking toward the same door. For a lion, their response might be, there was a person? What person? They're so focused on what they've got to do when they get through that door that they may not have noticed. Either that or they were hyper-focused and were very aware of the person, but it filters right out because it's not important. It's not efficient for you to wait at the door. They're 20 feet behind you. It wouldn't necessarily be considered rude.
Yeah.
So you just move on.
Right.
But some lions are so hyper-focused. They know everything
that's
happening. They just filter it out real quick to what's important.
Right.
The otter, they'll hold the door and stick out their hand and loudly remark, "Where's my tip?" jokingly.
Yep. That could happen.
That sounds
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Completely.
A golden retriever would hold the door, smile, and ask the person if they're having a good day.
Nice.
And then the beaver, kind of like the lion, if they notice the person, would briefly consider the amount of time it would take to hold the door versus their schedule and determine if it's worth the effort.
Interesting.
If you do hold the door, you'll be the one who walks through it and holds it open behind you so you can immediately move on.
Okay.
And the last scenario would be you're given a task and some specific instructions on what to do. The lion would identify the most efficient way to complete the task and do it immediately. The instructions were just a suggestion for someone who didn't know what they were doing.
I like that.
Lions go by their own book.
Right.
The otter would discuss it with their friends at lunch. And they would express their utter disbelief at the absurdity of it. When they do finally complete it, they'll email it back and copy on a whole bunch of people.
Okay.
The golden retriever, the next time they see the person who assigned it, they'll make sure to completely understand what's being asked. They'll ask the same question 3 different ways to make sure they understand.
Interesting.
They do not want to upset anyone. But they will ask a couple times to make sure they know how to please this person. And then the beaver will prioritize the task among their other work. When they get to it, they'll follow the instructions completely, even if they know a better way. Like I already said, beavers do that. And then they'll double check their work before submitting, even if it makes it late. So those are kind of the scenarios I have about the animals. But
yeah, that's really cool.
Definitely kind of gives you an idea of what they're all like, and in scenarios how people might respond differently, so you can get a feel for the differences.
Man, so hold on. Is there something? So now I really want to know how, this, how all of this plays into interpersonal relationships or romantic relationships. No, not interpersonal, but romantic relationships, right?
Sure.
Well, that's what we were talking about just a second ago. So we're about to talk about love languages, right?
Uh-huh.
And how I noticed when you were talking about the beaver, who is way more task oriented, I think that would probably be reflected in their love language.
Right.
So that they're interconnected somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And even though I talk about these in work settings because it's the easiest way to see,
right,
all these strengths and weaknesses play out in personal relationships. So kind of like those scenarios kind of show, if you're in a relationship with a lion, they're texting back with as few syllables as possible. So, if you say, "Oh, I'll meet you for lunch later today," they're probably just texting back K.
Right.
Which annoys some people.
Yeah, then learn to sort of deal with it or find another person, right?
Right, either understand that that's all they're going to say and it's not a reflection on you, that that's not important to them.
Yeah.
Or having the awareness to realize they're a lion, they need directness, and saying, "Hey, I know for you, just saying K is enough, but that makes me feel like you don't value me. So if you could maybe just say, okay, see you then."
Right.
If a lion knows that, again, they're very into their relationships. If they know that, they also know it's going to be more efficient, because if they start a fight because they said K, it's not always efficient.
Right.
So lions have to learn that, because whether relationships or work, if they piss someone off, if they're at work and they're the boss and someone's not maybe working at the highest level that they know they could, the most efficient way to address that would be to be like, "Hey, Steve, stop sucking at your job." That's efficient. There is no question there that lion does not think Steve is doing his job.
Correct.
But is that going to cause problems? Is Steve going to be too angry to work? Now is this really efficient?
Right.
Now everyone else is like, oh shit, don't talk to the boss. He just called Steve out. So it's like, even though to them it's efficient in that moment, is it truly efficient when now there's interpersonal problems?
Yes.
Right.
But if they know that, if they know Steve is going to be like, excuse me?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They might be like, oh, maybe I should go talk to Steve.
Yeah. Or find their local otter. Say, hey.
Sure. Yeah, go find the otter. Have them go ask Steve why he's sucking at his job.
Yeah, but so that what I'm hearing is otters may be great for morale and all that, but perhaps they're not great management material because
They can be.
They could be, but this whole aspect of always like seeing like the best, right? So yes, you're nice, but like a little bit of that lion would come in like really well because now you're able to say, okay, if this is presenting an issue, right? But on the other side, and and I think that's what you've been working on, and that's the thing that you encountered in your current.
Absolutely. Well, now I was about to say is, so when we began this, we're talking about, it's a little bit of hyperbole because not everybody is everything.
Right.
So I recognize a lot of the otter characteristics, but there are some things like with the scenarios that I don't do, right? And so I think that is where we are many different things. So we may be mainly one thing, but we're also different things. And yes, like you said, when you are in a position of management and you know your propensity is to, like, for instance, one of the techniques you learn in management, a lot of people may have heard this, is the sandwich, right? If you have to, so let's say you had to go talk to Steve, right? And I've got to explain to Steve that his job performance is subpar, right? I naturally do the sandwich, which is I begin the conversation talking about positive things, right? Mm-hmm. Then I discuss what needs to be changed and how we might go about doing it. And then I also end with how this is going to work out and be positive. Yeah. And when the sandwich was explained to me, I thought it was funny because I was like, I just do that.
Sure.
Like that's how I correct people as an otter, right? So it's not like I don't have the ability to do it. And if you're a lion, you may not get that, right? Because
it's
you're
not
like,
efficient.
Yeah, because you're like, why are you spending 30 seconds talking to Steve when you could spend 10? Right. Whereas for me, it's like natural to do those things because I have that otter type personality.
But that can lead to really good leadership skills because you have that way to influence people. People aren't going to be turned off when you're talking to them.
Right.
Like they might be with a lion who's maybe not aware that they have that tendency to be a little short and harsh.
Yeah, and that's where this is really useful. So, because if you recognize it about yourself, so if you know your weaknesses, so my weakness as an otter is that I may get through that conversation without Steve truly understanding that things have to change, right? So that's where I have to be careful. Like when Adrian was talking about, that's what I work on, because I have, I'm in a management position currently. And so that's where I have to make sure is that I'm lying enough in that conversation that they get the meat of the sandwich, right?
Right.
And not focus just on the bread, right? Because then nothing changes, right? If they just heard me saying nice things about them and didn't understand that I was also instructing them to do something and to change something, then it wouldn't be effective, right? And so, so knowing your propensities allows you to actually be a more effective communicator, leader, management. Yeah.
Sure. But I mean, even you might naturally be an otter, but like at work, you could totally change that personality. If you get put into a leadership role and you're like, I need to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
I'm coming into this team that maybe doesn't necessarily respect me. You might pull out a lion and that might be who you are at work. You go home and you're an otter or beaver or whatever, but at work, you found out how to be a lion.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you can pull that kind of stuff out, even if it's not your main animal. It might be at work.
Yeah, if you needed to be.
Yeah, like I'm not an otter, but I was in a community role, so I did a lot of networking. Guess who had to be an otter? Right. It was exhausting for me, being a golden retriever.
Right.
But I did it.
Yeah.
You can pull that out and be effective.
Yeah.
It might be exhausting. It might be hard. There might be more burnout at your job, potentially, so you need to be able to pace that.
Sure.
but don't get into a relationship pretending to be something you're not.
Right, so that's a little bit different. Yeah, the interpersonal relationships are different than your work performance. Well, because I know Adrian and I, we've had this discussion where your lionness, which we didn't call it that, right?
Right.
But your lionness allows me to be the otter. And we've talked about how if you weren't part of the team, right, that I would have had to have been more
Right,
lion.
you'd have to compensate,
Yeah,
for
and-
that, because you'd realize that it's not supporting,
Yes.
the maintenance of the order, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so even if I were in your role, right, the operations manager, I would either have to find a lion to take your role or be the lion at work, because that's how the organization would run effectively.
Right.
Sure.
And we've
But I
just
mean, we all
discussed-
have
yeah.
those animals. You have all four animals
yeah.
in you. So
Well, right, but you'd be so tired. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like
Yes.
it
It
would
is
be
definitely
so
harder.
much. Right, exactly.
Yes,
yeah.
like she said, it would definitely be more difficult.
like I do find I want more vacations or days off or something because I am not naturally an otter.
Yeah.
And if I spend several days networking with people, I
Right.
come home and I'm just like, cook dinner. No.
Yeah,
Right.
I need that time.
Lay down.
Right.
And so there's truth in what you said, how, in certain roles, you may want a certain type of personality long term, right? So even though I could compensate and do the job, would it be something that I enjoyed long term? Probably not, because it doesn't fit my natural instinctive personality type.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting, because what would probably happen was, even if I did the role and took care of the things I needed to do, if I had to hire, I would definitely hire a lion to take on those aspects that needed
Right.
to be done from a lion's point of view, so that I wouldn't have to get burnt out by it.
Yeah, so you don't have to fight nature,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is where this is so useful, because then you could enter that into your decision-making process when you interview somebody.
Absolutely.
How personalities are going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in relationships, any combination of animals can have a relationship and be successful.
Sure. Yeah.
You just have to make sure that you're not pretending to, be an otter to impress this new person, because you cannot keep that up probably.
Yeah.
So being your true self when you're going into interpersonal relationships, work may be different. You can pretend to be what you want to be, as long as you feel like you can deal with the burnout possibly.
Yeah.
But those interpersonal relationships, very important to be who you are, so that your personalities, not that they work together, any of them can work together, but that you can work together
Right.
on
Yeah.
your strengths and weaknesses and how to deal with communication issues if there are any.
Yeah. So talking about interpersonal relationships, let's talk about some love.
Let's talk about love.
Yeah. So, unlike animals, there are 5 love languages.
All right.
So the 5 types are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch.
Physical touch.
Yes.
For the love languages portion of the program, I'm going to talk like this.
Sure.
No, I'm not. Not really. But
Like this is the jazz station.
yeah. Welcome to Smooth 107.5. I'll be taking you on a journey of sound tonight as we get into some smooth melodies.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, you totally could have done that too.
So, it's fascinating, because I've encountered this before, and it's almost like with the personality types, knowing the love language of your significant other, or even just your family member or somebody close to you, can totally let you understand when conflict arises.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
The love languages are hugely important. At work they can have, some play,
Right?
but more often than not, it's your personal relationships, whether it's family or friends.
Yeah.
Maybe coworkers if you're close. But really, the love languages are how you receive love most efficiently, I guess. And for a lot of us, we can be running low on an empty love tank, if you were to say. But for a lot of us, that's just comfortable because we don't know how to ask for what we need. And so a lot of us feel comfortable. We did this exercise in the training where since one of the things is words of affirmation, we all took the assessment to determine which love language was our top. And that's an easy assessment to find online. There are lots. The 5 love languages have been around for a long time.
Yeah.
But one of the women who was a words of affirmation person went to the front, and they asked her to just put this really baggy T-shirt on over her clothes. And it said Love Tank on it. And then we all had balloons that we blew up just to like grapefruit size. And then we all wrote something nice on them for her. So you look nice today, or you have a lot of experience to share, whatever the case may be. And then they were like, okay, everyone throw your balloons up front. And so we did, and she was supposed to stuff them all in the shirt. So she looked all lumpy, and so it was basically like having her love tank full.
Interesting,
And then the guy asked, he was like, so with your shirt all stuffed with balloons, would you be okay to like take a walk across the street with me? Are you comfortable doing that? And she was like, He's like, okay, let's take all the balloons out. How do you feel about walking across the street? Now, most people, of course, would say, I'm more comfortable doing it without a bunch of balloons stuffed in my shirt.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the metaphor of like, a lot of us are so comfortable running on like a low, love tank. And we're too afraid to ask. But asking what our hearts need, it can be really uncomfortable. But communicating it to your friends and family is one of the best ways to make sure that your love tank is full.
Yeah.
Even if it feels difficult, it's very important for people to understand how the best way to love you. Like I said, there are 5 types. Words of affirmation is basically just compliments. It doesn't have to be spoken words. It could be written like a card or a note, even if it's just like, have a great day in your lunchbox or something. That's all they need. It's just a short little, I was thinking about you and I wrote some words.
Yeah.
Encouragement, expression of feelings. I love you is really big for people who, have words of affirmation as their main.
Right.
Quality time would be a little different. It's more about spending time with someone. So just having that time, whether it's a friend or a family member or a significant other, like date nights, if it's your significant other, like a girls' night with your best friend. Just that taking that time. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to spend any money. It could be you two just sitting there playing on your phones next to each other, not talking, but you're there together. Sometimes some people who like quality time would prefer that it be quality, actually doing stuff, but it's mostly that time together. So just doing things with someone. Receiving gifts. A lot of people don't want this to be their love language because they feel like, oh my God, I'm like a gold digger. It's not. This is not like the Santa Baby song or anything like that. You don't need keys to a penthouse and a Lexus and a diamond ring, and that's not what gifts are.
Right.
Literally, a gift could just be someone was like checking out at Walmart and they saw this pen and they're like, oh, she always uses that emoji in her text. I'll buy her this pen with that emoji. 25-cent pen. And just, they're like, here, I bought you this pen. And that means so much to a gifts person. It doesn't even have to have money. Like, they could be walking, through the park and be like, I saw this cool rock, and I don't know why, I just thought of you. It's a rock.
Right.
It has no value whatsoever.
Right.
But to a gifts person, that's huge. Like, someone just thought of you and brought you something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'd all like to receive a Lexus or something, but that's not what a gift person necessarily is.
Okay.
So a lot of people feel like they're materialistic if that's their love language, but they're not. They just want someone to think about them and bring them a thoughtful gift.
Right.
That's cool. That brings it home a little bit more.
Action.
Yeah.
Acts of service. So this is when someone does something for you.
Okay.
So usually something like taking it off your checklist. Someone, you and your spouse both work full-time jobs. Neither of you really wants to cook dinner. But for an active service person, if your spouse gets home and goes ahead and cooks dinner, that's really big. That took something off your to-do list. For people to do something that you didn't ask them to do is huge for an active service person.
Okay, yeah.
So it could be anything, big, small, just, oh, I took the dog out. Great. I don't have to do that now.
Yeah.
Or it could be like helping them. So your friend knows that you're trying to paint your house this weekend. They're like, hey, why don't I come over and help you?
Yeah, without you having to be like, hey.
I need help. You want some pizza?
Yeah.
The pizza bribe.
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
It is.
Yeah.
Because it's so effective. It still works today.
Yes, it does.
Of So yeah, acts of service loves that if someone just volunteers to do something for them.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
And then physical touch is pretty self-explanatory. But it doesn't have to be sex. It could be just a hug or a high five.
Yeah.
Right.
Fist bump, whatever. Sitting just close, in close proximity to someone. Holding hands, snuggling, any of that. If someone's doing that to you, more often than not, probably a significant other. But, I mean, if you have a really close friend, you're probably hugging and things like that. So,
Yeah.
Or wrestling.
Yes.
sure, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so. As a girl, I don't relate to that one as much. I don't know if that's more of a male thing.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Not exclusively, but
Yeah.
perhaps more.
Yeah, I don't normally see a lot of girls do that. I don't. And it's funny.
No.
I don't see like best friend girls will like just run up behind the other one and like kind of try to put him in a mock headlock. Whereas if I see a guy doing that to another guy, I'm like, oh man, they're good friends. I don't, they must really like each other. That's funny. That is so true. But it's interesting. It's also cultural where you're at. I know in other countries, men in platonic relationships that are close friends might walk down the street hand in hand.
Absolutely.
And that's, and in America, that would be, you would think, oh, they're in a romantic relationship if you
Right.
see that.
Sure.
Not necessarily true other places.
Right.
Yeah.
So depending on where you are, love languages might change.
Yeah.
And depending on who you're with, if your main thing is physical touch, you probably don't want your coworker coming up and kissing you on the cheek. Maybe you do. I don't know. But at that point, love language probably looks like a high five if you did something well.
Right.
So your love language might depend on who you're around, the situation.
Now I have this series of people that I work with just in my
coming up and kissing
imagination,
you on
just
the
being
cheek.
like, "Congratulations, Aaron," and you're just like, "What just happened? What?" Yeah, because again, in America, in our society, kissing is generally reserved for the romantic or the like super special occasion, right?
Sure.
Maybe you're
Yeah.
getting married or
Yes.
something, and your best friend gives you a kiss on the cheek, like congratulations. But in other cultures, like the Fair Libys, if you're in Europe, the double kiss on the side of the cheek, totally natural.
That is something that is so common, like back home in Kenya, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember one time specifically, the last time I ever tried to do that, I met this girl at Maria Empanada for a date, right? And as she approached me, she was actually also African, right? And, I tried to go for the double kiss and she's just like, whoa, 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 whoa. It was just like really, really awkward, right? And then I realized that it's so wrong to just assume that, because in the moment I thought that, it was okay because, she was also African.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that culturally, like she's adjusted and perhaps maybe even in her family, maybe that wasn't something they did.
Yeah.
But that moment, that was when I stopped trying to,
That's so interesting.
any of that.
Yeah.
But when I go home, definitely, with the women and even culturally, depending on like what tribe you're from, men will also kiss, on the cheek. You know what I'm saying? It's fairly common.
Yeah.
So yeah, just an interesting little story about that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because culturally, in America, if you just met somebody who was, they identified as, if you asked them their ethnicity versus race, they might answer American, right?
Yeah.
If they answered that way, they're probably, not holding hands, not unless they're involved in a romantic relationship. They're probably not kissing unless it's a romantic relationship.
Right.
But in other parts of the world, like you said, it's completely different. And then, knowing where you're at can get difficult, especially in a metropolitan area like Denver, where you have a lot of different people from a lot of different places.
Right, exactly.
And knowing what's appropriate in different situations culturally can be a minefield.
Yeah, and it's socioeconomic status, because I feel like some folks from like the upper crust would be more open to that kind of a thing.
That is so interesting.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the double kiss, right? So like, obviously not. The men, we're not going there. It's a done deal. If you're in
Sure.
America, don't ever even try.
Don't try
It's
it.
an easy way to be hurt,
Yes.
potentially. But with,
Yeah.
with definitely with the ladies, you know what I'm saying? You go, hey, how you doing? If you're at like a black tie event,
Yeah.
there's a decent,
Chance that that's gonna
chance
happen.
depending on like who you're around that it's okay.
That's true, because the one woman that I know that's happened where I realized, I was like, because I took French in high school, and so I learned about it, and I'd seen it, but I'd never had anybody attempt it with me, except for this one woman who was a girlfriend of a friend of mine, and she came from New York and was, from an upper echelon, you might say, of society. And that's how there was no actual touching, but it was like the Fairlebies of just,
Right, exactly, right.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And when I think about it, that's the only person who's ever, but she was raised in that way, where that was how you said hello or goodbye.
Right. Huh. Man, we really went on a tangent.
We did. Sorry about that.
We digress.
No, it's good. But yeah, if you are a physical touch person, maybe knowing that not everyone is.
Yes. When to apply that and when not to.
Yeah, to make sure everyone's okay with it. But knowing your love language and someone else's is huge, because you can really invalidate someone and your relationship with them if, let's say, you're a words of affirmation person and they are maybe like a gifts person. And so if you're the words person and they're gifts, and they were like, hey, I brought you this emoji pen I saw at the grocery store today, and it made me think of you. And you're just like, yeah, well, I have like 800 pens at my house. I really don't need that.
Yeah.
That like totally invalidates their thinking of you, and it just kind of says like, I don't value you in our relationship.
Yeah.
Because I'm not taking the time to appreciate the fact that you took the time to think about me, and even though it was only 25 cents, they didn't have to spend 25 cents on you.
Right, yeah.
So being aware of other people's love languages so you don't offend them, even if you're just like, oh, great, thanks, like, and then never use that pen again.
Sure, yeah, even if you don't get it. Yeah, just that sign of appreciation.
Right, like being sincere in your appreciation, even if you're just like, I'm never going to use this. Being very sincere in that thanks. I'm just like, thank you so much for thinking about me. That was really sweet.
Yeah.
So no matter what your language is, so that there aren't those breakdowns of like, one person wants words of affirmation and one person wants quality time. And, the person whose words is just like, why won't they ever say I love you? And the other person's just like, I took you out on like 3 dates last week.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Yeah, I changed your tire, I cooked you dinner, I did all these things.
Sure.
Why do you need me to say that?
Right. So a beaver is probably more going to be like acts of service.
Yeah.
Because they'll just do it. It's a process.
Right.
Well, I changed your tire and I cooked dinner and I took the dog out and I bathed the kids.
Right.
I don't need to say the words. That is my way of saying I love you. And the words of affirmation person is just like, no.
Right, I want to hear it. Right, I know it's so fascinating because I think of like the beaver would be acts of service. I think the otter would probably be words of affirmation, right? And then I don't know, what would the lion be? I don't know, maybe acts of service, maybe gifts.
They could. I mean, acts of service could make it more efficient for them.
Sure,
you took something off my to-do list.
Yeah,
good job.
Yeah.
So that could be. Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends.
Yeah, and I guess it's individual to the person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on, the person. Because for me, I know my love language isn't acts of service.
Golden retrievers are probably like quality time and like words of affirmation.
Yeah, I can see that. So just, self-disclosure, I was definitely words of affirmation followed by physical touch. And being an otter, it kind of made sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm quality time and acts of service. Or, no. Quality time and words of affirmation. Those are kind of my top.
Yeah.
More definitely quality time.
Okay, yeah.
Close second is, although the first one we used, I don't know how.
It's a hard assessment.
Exactly. I don't know how much, but I'm just going to go into it and say quality. I'm going to say quality time. And physical touch.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
yeah, it's important to know. And so, if you know someone who likes acts of service, if you're trying to show them that you love them by doing an act of service, and you decide to wash their car, well, maybe they were never planning on washing their car. Maybe they're like, it's Colorado, it's gonna snow, it's gonna rain, it's gonna hail. I like to take my car up into the mountains, like it's muddy. Like I just don't see the value in washing my car. if you wash their car, it's not going to come off as an act of love to them because it was never on their to-do list in the first place.
That's true.
So you didn't
right?
save them any time.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you know an active service person, maybe ask them like, hey, I'd love to help you out this week. I know you've got like 3 meetings and you're stressed and what can I do to help you?
Right.
Then they'll say, wash my car or, maybe cook me a dinner that I can just heat up Monday night after my super long meeting or something.
Yeah. Again, communication, right?
Right. So this is when, even though it's uncomfortable, it's like being able to tell your loved ones what you need.
Right.
Because it can cause problems if they're constantly doing stuff for you and just like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah, it's a good couples exercise to take, like if you have a significant other or somebody in your life, to take this together so that you can sort of discuss it.
Yeah. And it's always important to know that, like, you don't have to just, like, accept whatever they give you, no question.
Right.
Right.
One of the ladies in the training, she was like, my neighbor, she's so nice. Like, she makes a lot of pasta and she always has a lot of leftovers. She knows I'm busy as a first responder, so she always, like, leaves some for me. And the lady's like, the problem is I hate pasta. And so it was, like, a conversation of, like, she could certainly go to her neighbor and be like, I really appreciate you taking the time to like make this pasta and that you think of me and that you always have some left over for me because you know that I'm busy.
Right.
However, due to strict diet, restrictions or something, I really can't eat this delicious looking pasta.
Right.
Even if it's maybe a white lie or something, but like showing that true appreciation.
Right.
But then saying, however, if you ever happen to be making salad and have leftover, I would definitely love salad. Like you can ask them for what you need, but it needs to be in a way that's really appreciative of what they were doing, even if it wasn't helping you or wasn't what you wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
But being able to ask is huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is very interesting. Yeah. I think that is something that maybe we lack is having the boldness, I would say, or maybe the fearlessness to say to somebody like, this is how I need to be loved. And to be comfortable with that.
Sure.
It seems like it takes a little bit of courage because I don't think I definitely was not encouraged to tell people that, right? Especially as a man.
None of us are.
Yeah, it's like, make sure you tell them how you need to be loved was never something that I heard.
Right.
I think that's interesting because I don't know if it has anything to do with my lion and nature, but that's a conversation that I've had. I bring up the love languages thing. In fact, you were laughing at me that one time because I was talking about how I wanted to speak to someone that we work with and I was going to consider, taking that love language approach, right? So, because I'm all about being efficient, right? So I'm just like, give me the cheat codes to make this work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I have no problem at all being like, yeah, so what is it you want?
Right.
So I can
it's
just.
so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can just, get this.
Let's figure this out.
Yeah. Let's get this done.
Yeah. And that's definitely the lion nature because it's more efficient. Like, let's just figure out what you need. This is what I need. So let's make this work.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That situation is really interesting though. And I think a lot of people would have some trouble because there's ever so slightly an element of confrontation or the possibility of, right? Because it feels a little bit confrontational because now you have to tell this little white lie to spare this person's feelings, right? So for me, immediately as you were speaking, I was thinking I'm already in conflict, right? Because I would not want to have to go to the lengths of, saying something like, oh, I have dietary, you know what I'm saying? But then I don't know what I'd want to do instead. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the alternative is just continue taking the pasta and not eating it,
Yeah.
That's an option for you. You certainly could.
Right.
And just continue to thank them.
Yes.
But if you want to be like, hey, I really appreciate this.
Yeah.
I can't eat pasta. My doctor told me I'm, gluten intolerant or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe that's true.
I'm
Maybe
allergic
it's
to pasta.
not. I don't know. But I mean, some people truly, it would be they're just like, thank you so much. But I'm, I can't eat this wonderful Alfredo because I'm lactose intolerant.
Right.
Right.
And maybe she just didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah,
she
totally.
does. And so
Right.
she might be like, oh, well, when I make pesto pasta, would you like that?
And you're like, yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Maybe.
Right.
Pesto has cheese in it. So
Interesting.
So
why
I would
not?
definitely ask for the salad as well. Be like, do you have any salad too? Because that would be awesome. And then just like dispose of the pasta and eat the salad. Like that would be my approach. Would be to ask, like, hey, do you have salad too? Because man, I got the pasta. Maybe you have some salad.
Right.
And then you'd get the salad, and I would never have to have the confrontation about the pasta.
Well, the guy in the training, he was like, you could also go in and just be like, hey, like, what is your favorite thing to make? Like, yeah, maybe you make pasta a lot, but is that your favorite thing to make?
yes.
And then if she
Yes.
was like, well, actually,
good.
I really
That's
like
good.
to make, grilled chicken, be like, hey, I love some grilled chicken. Like, if you
Hell
ever got some
yeah.
of that left over,
Right? Yeah.
bring that on over. I would
Exactly.
Right.
love grilled chicken.
And because of their nature, they already like making this thing.
Sure.
And you're saying that you would love that.
Yeah. They're
Oh,
in
now you're getting grilled chicken.
all the time.
All
And
the
you made like a connection. You both found out you
Exactly.
love grilled chicken.
Exactly.
So
I'm kind of hungry right now.
I've been thinking
keep
about
getting the
omelets
food,
for a few
apparently.
minutes. Yeah.
So what's next? We talk about the love languages. We got the.
yeah, I think that's mostly it.
that's
It's
mostly
just
it. Yeah.
knowing your personality, whether it's an animal or a love language, and how to navigate those relationships with others who are not your animal
Yeah.
or language, and being able to work through, recognize the value in everyone and their decision making process, and just how they want to be loved.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
No, this has been so great. I was so interested and so excited for this because, the far-reaching benefits of, such, simple and fun information. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To have. Yeah, it's great. I'm really happy we did this. Yeah.
Oh, and I love it when there's another window into human nature, right? So, we deal with humans all day. This is our job. This is our focus, healing, helping, and finding any tool that somebody has gone through the trouble of like opening up the window, right? Because the human being is so complex, like you said. Within every line, there's also a beaver, an otter, and a golden retriever. And so finding ways to sort of open that window into the personality of a person so that you can better understand them with the ultimate goal of better serving them,
Sure.
right? And it's just super awesome also that it's so cool, right? Because there's like, it's not just this dry conversation about character traits.
Right.
We've taken it to, the animals, and when we have love languages, and the way that we talk about it makes it so accessible, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody,
and relatable.
yes, because everybody knows the lion, and everybody can sort of relate. Oh, I know what a golden retriever's like, and oh yeah, I've seen an otter on
Yeah,
TV,
exactly.
and yeah, beavers, man, they're awesome. Like we were talking about how awesome it is that like a beaver can fell a tree with no axe. Was
Yeah.
something I can't do. But then you can imagine like the personality that it takes to just get in there and get it done.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just fascinating stuff.
Yeah, but it also, while it helps with personal communication, it also helps depersonalize it to that extent of,
Oh yeah.
if you have a conflict, it's not with the person themselves.
Right.
It's with their value, their decision making, their animal, their love language.
So true.
Whatever. So you can kind of take a step back and be like, I don't hate Susan.
Right.
I'm just having a conflict with her values and mine.
Yeah.
Right.
So true. So useful. Thank you so much, Megan.
Yeah. And then, just the only other thing I said in the beginning, but bears repeating, intention has no bearing on impact.
Yes.
That is
How you
such
come across to someone, you don't really get, a say in how it comes across to them. So having that awareness to know how you come across to people
yes.
so that you don't leave a bad impression.
Crucial.
Absolutely. I have a question. So now that you're just so enlightened,
Sure.
how has it changed your relationship in house? Like, did you get home and immediately like it was a little bit like a different?
I've known about the animals for a while.
Yeah.
Probably not. With my husband, like we've been together for 8 years, so
Yeah.
like we figured each other out before I knew animals
Right.
and love
right.
languages and everything else. So
Got you.
we pretty much have that understanding already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So probably not at home, but I would say like the way I approach like clients at work sometimes, like
Right.
when I'm just like, why are they being such a butt today?
Right.
They're probably not, but their value system may be different than mine. Their risk versus reward is different than mine. Whatever the case may be, like having that approach to like, oh, that's maybe why they were doing, or they just have information I don't have.
Right.
Yeah.
So just knowing that, I think, helps. Or coworkers, if I've ever had a conflict with a coworker, just thinking back on it, being like, well, I was probably being too golden retriever, maybe, and
Yeah.
maybe they were being very lion-like, and
Right.
you know, they said one little comment to me, and I was just like, oh my god, how
Right.
could you say that? You know, and then it just spiraled into me being like, well, they're just terrible.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
But knowing that maybe not, maybe that was just a very efficient way to tell me something.
Yeah. Yeah. That is
And to
so
them, they
true.
were just like, that's not mean.
Yeah. No, it's just direct.
Sure.
Yeah. I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that was mean. You're a mean person.
I know.
I know.
And it's funny because that's my minor character is the golden retriever. So I get that because sometimes I have to recognize that, be like, oh, they're not trying to be mean. Right?
Yeah, or
They're just-
exclusionary. Like sometimes
Yes.
you like there's a group conversation and like no one just like personally asks you to come in
Oh,
to
yeah.
it, but you just kind of like step in and then you're like, no one talked to me. They must hate me.
Yeah.
No one talked to me directly. So
Yeah. It's
clearly
funny.
no one likes me.
I wonder if there's any evolution as you grow. Like, I wonder if you're like, because I feel like maybe at one point I was majority this. I was always kind of this, but then over time it just sort of shifted. I wonder.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think it's completely plausible that does happen because while you have your foundation,
Yeah.
right, you have all these experiences and all these things that happen through life, and so it may highlight other, of other animal,
Yeah.
traits.
Yeah, I mean,
and-
you'll probably always wear the same animal, but with social learning
Yes.
experiences going well or poorly,
Right.
having that ability to be like, oh, when I said that, no one thought it was funny.
Right.
And knowing, having that awareness now, like even though your otter side might be like, oh, say that, your other sides are like, hey, maybe not. This didn't go well last time.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting too because I feel like I was always authentically majority this thing, but I think I was kind of covered up because I know people who knew me 20 years ago. Like when both of you, I thought it was interesting when you read this. You're like, "Oh, Aaron, yeah, you are this, right?" And to a T. I immediately identified you as this. I think if I were to speak to somebody who knew me when I was a teenager, they would not have described me in that same way, even though I think fundamentally I was, right? So I was, covering it up or I didn't feel free to express who I truly was, those kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just you're so young and looking to fit in
Yes.
at that period of your life more than others, right?
Yeah.
You know how they say, I read something the other day that was so funny. In your 20s, you think, you care about what everyone thinks, right?
Right.
And then they say like they said something like,
30s probably, you just let it go.
but they said something about like in your by your like your mid 30s to 40s, you don't. It was something interesting. But then by your 60s, you realize like no one was paying attention to you.
Yeah. That is so true.
and by then it's like you're just glad that you got to that conclusion, but
Right.
you really
Almost
wish
too late.
Exactly.
No, I think it is a turning point. It was a turning point in my life when I thought about it for a minute and I realized like I think about myself most of the time. I mean, people do, right? So you figure everybody else is probably thinking about themselves most of the time. So how much are they really paying attention to like these
They're
small
not.
things that drive me nuts? So like, in my 20s, things used to drive me nuts that now I'm just like, I don't even think anybody notices the stain on my pants. Or I would have had to go home and like change. Now I'm like,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
If you look hard enough, you deserve to find something.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's so interesting how we change through time. And this is fascinating stuff. We could sit here and talk about it all night.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, me too.
Right, so let's bring this to a close. So I'm so glad you came to do this.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I've been really, really excited about this.
Me too.
So like I said, we're going to do our best. Actually, we will include some of the links where you can find all of this information so you can check it out for yourself when we post this episode.
Yeah.
Which is going to be number 21.
22.
22?
22.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, last week with Owen and David, that was 21. And such a change, right? So our last episode was on the Black Plague. And this one is on otters and golden retrievers.
Hey, mixing it up, man. We're mixing it up.
Fascinating stuff on 2teachone.
Absolutely. So thanks again to everyone for tuning in. Megan, thank you so much for coming on and, doing this with us. It's definitely sparked my interest. I want to know a little bit more about some of these things because it's such, it's such easy information to, take in and, assimilate.
It is.
But a lot of people probably didn't know about some of these things.
No, yeah. I had no idea.
I think it's going to be super beneficial.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward. I hope everyone takes the time to maybe post. Like if you want to come on our Facebook page or on our website and send us a message like, hey guys, I'm an otter, or I'm a beaver. Tell
Absolutely.
us. We want to hear.
Talk to us about that, and perhaps let us know what you thought was the most interesting part of the episode.
Yeah, there may be some cool posting of otter pictures.
Oh yeah. We're gonna have some really cool, stuff to put on social media about this one, and we hope that you interact with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I don't know why I just had to, stress that it's absolutely great.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think absolutely is one of my favorite words.
Oh, absolutely.
This has been great.
This has been great. So with that, we're going to bring this to a close. Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to get in touch with us, please feel free to do so via the website at www.2teachone.com. That's www, the number 2, TEACH, the number 1.com. Or feel free to just Google 2teachone. You should be able to find us pretty easily, or you can reach us on social media at 2teachone. That is TWOTEACHONE. 2teachone on Facebook and Instagram. And please, while you're there, go ahead and give us a like and join the community. And always look out for some posts. We have a lot of stuff coming up, so join us. Thanks, everyone, for being with us. And with that, my name's Adrian.
My name's Aaron.
And I'm Megan.
Have a good one.